Hello, my name is Vanshika Agarwal. I would like to share my experience of Great Lakes Institute of Management. I was selected for the PGBM program. So here we go. Now, moving on. It was an offline interview which was conducted in Delhi, and it was not conducted at it was not conducted at the campus. It was probably an office space or something like that. So moving on, it was on 31st January 2025, and I had the morning slot, as in my interview was supposed to, I was called upon at 9 a.m. Then there were approximately, you could say, 20 candidates over there, and initially you could say, I mean, and the procedure was very swift. It started, I mean, they took some time on their part in order to set up the whole procedure. Considering it was a morning interview, so this whole setup was supposed to be the first one. So initially, creating a, as in finding the whole panelist sections and everything, probably setting all the peoples down. That is what took most of the time. But my interview started at 9:45, and I, as far as I remember, I was the second person who was assigned the interview. So in my case, there was only one female, as in there was only one panelist, and there was no sort of documents which were required. There was, obviously, considering that there was no documents required, so there was no document verification as well. All we need to do over there was appear for the interview, and we just had to, probably it was hardly for 10 to 15 minutes or something like that, depending upon the person. That's all. So moving on, now going towards the interview. So obviously panelist one, there was only one panelist. Now see, in my case the interview lasted for approximately 10 to 15 minutes. There is a possibility, just in case, if you go, it might last for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or 40 minutes as well. As in, one of my friends did had an interview experience of approximately 40 minutes. So moving on, the first question, considering it was a PGPM program, explain your work experience. General one, related to me only. So let's move on. Now, why MBA? This question is something which is very common from our perspective, and not just from our perspective, for the PGDM perspective as well. Considering that it's expected that you have experience of approximately 2.2 to 2.5 years, a minimum of experience. So right now, leaving your job, moving towards this whole education perspective again is something which needs a lot of thought process. So the interviewer only wants to understand if you have been clear enough in order to make this decision. Now, moving on the third question, it was specific to me only, as in better opportunities after CFA, and the fourth one, obviously, other goals. It's very important that you give them a clear and a practical picture. As in, if you have any other calls, clearly tell them about all of them. And obviously, the next question would be that if you do get a call from all of them, would you be preferring our college or not? At that point of time as well, it's important that you give your answer in the most honest answer, in the most honest way possible, because the person sitting over there is not stupid enough. As in, if you are comparing two colleges which are distinct in every form, and you know very clearly, if asked from a layman perspective, the person knows which one he or she would be going for. So it's important that you give the person that clarity, just in case if I do have an opportunity, I would be moving on towards a better option, and there's nothing wrong with that. The next question was, considering Great Lakes has two campuses, one is at Chennai and another is at Gurgaon. They asked me the same question, as in which one would you prefer? Considering that both the colleges don't have any major difference, as in the curriculum is same, the faculties, obviously the faculties are different, but the placements and the rest of the procedure is approximately the same. So, but I chose Gurgaon, considering that it is closer to my native place, which is Jaipur. Now, moving on, it was specific to my, experience only. I had shown experience in the financial field. Now, what happens is that probably she was trying to look at the negative perspective of being a person in a financial background. So it's important at that point of time as well that this whole curriculum, as in there's a very high chance the person might try to move you towards the negative perspective in order to understand if you are clear enough to tackle these kind of questions. So at this point of time, you need to understand that things need to be mentioned very clearly. As in, obviously, considering that you have to deal with other people, there are some negative consequences, there are some positive consequences. try to rationalize the whole procedure pretty much, and then give him or her a better and a clear answer. Then later on, prove yourself to be a team player. This is a very general question, considering being a person who had shown work experience. This is something which you definitely have encountered in whatever the span that you have showed your work experience for. Then the next question was something which was, not at all related to my profile, or you could say not even my interest and hobbies, which I had mentioned in the form. She asked me that there is anything specific that you are reading. Considering that I'm not a very avid reader, so I knew it very clearly that I didn't had any, you could say, books that I was reading then, or maybe I had read, say, in the past 1 month or 2 months for this matter. So instead of creating this whole picture that yes, there was a time, I had read, probably, you could say, Rich Dad Poor Dad is a book that I had read, but it was something which was way back. So just in case if I had mentioned the same book, and she would have countered me with a few questions, which was obvious that she would have, then there's a very high chance that you might stuck over there. So it's important to give that answer with honesty, that if you have any sort of book in your mind and you do know about that book, then only mention it. Then next one, mention your hobby. So over there I mentioned about trading. So the next question was related to my trading experience only, wherein she wanted to judge that whether I actually was, practicing that hobby, or I was just saying it for the sake of saying it. So again, with the risk of repeating it, it's important that whatever information that you're supplying the interviewer, you should be well enough clear about it. That's all. So these were the few questions which were asked to me during the interview, and that's all from my side. Thank you so much.